Aloha, everyone. Welcome to the West Maui Taxpayers Annual Meeting. This is going to be, those of you who have annual meetings are going to love this. This is the fastest business portion of an annual meeting in history. It's incredible. But it's not reality to your condominiums and other things that have actual real annual meetings. So, you'll see what I mean. But it's in a few minutes here, we're going to pray and eat. So Pastor Lucky, I saw him walking around out there. There he is. Pastor Lucky, you want to come in and give us a prayer and start us? Then we can get everybody to go out and grab a plate of food. Pastor Lucky Ka'ahumanu is the senior pastor of Church on the Go. It was formed about 17 years ago, and the name Church on the Go is because the Bible says, "Go ye out and preach the gospel." And that's how Church on the Go came to be. And he's a direct descendant of Queen Ka'ahumanu, and he is an awesome man of God. We love to have him start us off with the right way. So, Pastor Lucky, you going to come up here? He's going to eat first. I know more people are coming. This is a work day for a lot of people who live here still, and they're getting home. But people who have been coming to our annual meeting for years know that they don't have to worry about dinner because we feed them here, and as you'll see, it's delicious food. And of course, the price is right. It's complimentary. So, Pastor Lucky, do you want this microphone? Are you waiting for something?
I got my own. Can you hear me? I know.
You see here. There we go.
Kalamayau. How many of you live here? Oh, that's a lot, eh? How many of you know the first king, Kamehameha? How many wives he had? Well, he had many wives, but his favorite wife was Queen Ka'ahumanu. They never had any children together, so she, Hanai, adopted two girls from her birthplace in Hana. One of those girls was my great-great-grandmother, Cecilia Umeuli Ka'ahumanu. But I wanted to bless somebody. Maybe the guy way back there. The guy with the shining hair. That no more hair? Come here. Yeah, come here. Now. Well, when our last monarch, our Queen Liliuokalani, was overthrown from her position as our monarchy, she said, "Forgive them, they know not what they do." Listen, we don't know when it's our time to die, and those that Keakua has chosen to use are gone. But I remember our Uncle Puna sharing, he said, "Listen, if you want to be able to be used, let Keakua use you to touch someone." So, Ovalkoino, what's your name?
Rick.
Rick? Okay, face the audience. No look now. When you're on the count of three, we're going to have him open his eyes. So, shut your eyes. Shut, okay. On the count of three, ekahe e lua e kolo, open your eyes. Does he look better? Well, my hair used to be on top here until we had to make it. But because you were willing to come and receive, this is my CD, my song, After 30,000 Weddings, Will You Marry Me, going all over the world. And why would Keakua open the door? I ended up being a part of the Modern Family Hawaii Vacation. And that old actor guy, Al Bundy, he told me, "Lucky, you like to do a lot of weddings, just be funny." I said, "You're a funny guy." I said, "Well, I was trying out for the ukulele part, and when I walked in, all the top musicians were there, and they looked at me and they said, 'Kahu, what you doing here, Lucky?' Bro." I said, "I'm trying for the ukulele part." They said, "We're the top musician." Whatever. Then the director comes in and said, "We need a minister right now," and they all pointed to me. He's one. I said, "Oh, hallelujah." This is all Kihu'alu with Uncle George Kahumoku. It's all Slaki music, Hawaiian music, but it's all scripture reference to healing After 30,000 weddings, this couple called me 20 years later. The husband had cancer. And the wife said, Reverend, can you renew our vows before my husband passes away? So I renewed the vows there in Wailea. I prayed over him. I said, listen to the CD. It's all scripture reference to healing. 1 month later, they sent me a letter, said, Reverend, thank you for the CD. The cancer is gone. Being a prison chaplain, our prisons are filling up because our people are so discouraged. The amount of Hawaiians sleeping on the ground. This is Hawaii, and we are homeless in our home. Now they give us back a whole lot after they bombed the hell out of it. And we're over there cleaning up, planting all the trees. I said, stop. He said, why, Kahu, what are we going to do? I said, let's put a big damn casino over there so we can make some money. Instead of have to go Vegas. There's more Hawaiians in Vegas than in the whole state of Hawaii because it's cheaper to buy a house there than to rent one here. So when I go in the prisons, I give my flyer about my testimony of what God's done. I'm the Kahu senior pastor of Church on the Go, and I've been the director for the shelter for abused women and abandoned children. My wife and I just made 44 years of marriage. We never had any children of our own of 44 years. We adopted 16 of the kids that were abandoned there at the church. And now they're growing up. They say, Papa, can you bless my baby? I said, you was a baby when you came to me. Now you're having babies? I said, you guys making me feel real old. But these are my 3 new recorded songs. And this one is all scripture reference to weapons of warfare because a lot of our people are battling. Because you're willing to let your hair be able to grow some stuff now. Go back. All right, yes. Okay, God bless. If anybody else is bald, pay him, and then he'll give you his hair.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you. Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Pastor Lucky. There's a little entertainment for you, a little background. I just love him. He's a wonderful guy and a mighty man of God, and he's done healing. That CD healing thing, I know a couple dozen people have told me, just listening to that thing, the problems that they had just went away. It's amazing. Okay, well, in a few minutes here, we're going to start our meeting, so I'd like to have my West Maui Taxpayers Board members. Could you please come up here? I'd like to recognize them who are here. We should have some of them in the audience here. Michelle Hernandez is here. Richard Jarman, Joe Park, I see him. Greg Nelson. It's Fresh Day here. Fresh Day Tally. Dennis Turpin, I saw Dennis. I know Rick Nava, I got a call from him. Rick's dad's suddenly got emergency illness, and he's taking care of his father right now and apologizes that he can't be here tonight at the meeting. And then there's Michelle Hernandez and Greg Nelson. Greg, are you going to come up? Awesome. This is, those of you, how many of you served on boards and committees? You do? Thank you. And of course you get highly paid, right? For your service. Well, they get highly paid also. I'm just kidding, of course, in that, many hours. Our board of directors meets once a month, and you can check us out on our westmaui.org website page. It's got all kinds of information about them and us and what we do. And I urge you to go to that. But I want you to join me in giving a big hand to them, for thanking them for all the service work that they do. Because we couldn't do it without them. And I sincerely appreciate them very much. Thank you so much, guys, ladies and gentlemen. Awesome. And there's Vanessa. Oh, Vanessa wants a picture of us all. Okay. Got to do this. Sorry. Directors. Vanessa, who took that picture there, is everybody also knows how nice it is to have executive assistants or people that help them. Vanessa is priceless helper in our office as well. Is that Rick? Rick came in. Okay, Rick. So Dad's good enough to let you go. Okay. Well, there's our other board member Rick Navi just came in. Rick, I'm sorry that we didn't get you up in the picture. Sock on it. Okay, well, I'm glad Dad's good enough to allow you to come here today. So our business meeting, the West Maui Taxpayers Annual Meeting has officially come to order. I've seen in person or proxy over 25 members, which our bylaws says must be present in person or proxy to have a quorum for our annual meeting. And we've got that. So the meeting I called it a meeting to order. The first order of business is election of the board of directors. And those are the people you just seen right here. I'm asked for a motion of unanimous acclamation of ballot to cast in favor of them. Can I see a raise of hands to that motion? A consensus there. Is anybody opposed? There you go. Automatically. Give them a big hand. They're re-elected for another 2-year term. If you can imagine, that's the end of our meeting, our business meeting. Is that hard to believe? Yes, it is. But when we have our monthly board meetings, we go into a lot more depth, of course. We go over our financials, we go over agendas, we got our mission, goals, and objectives, things that we are trying to do and striving to do. Those of you who don't know, I've met quite a few people here who have been here for less than 5 years. Anybody less than 5 years you've been living in West Maui? Raise your hand. Okay, less than 5 years. How many people have lived here over 20 years? Raise your hand. Anybody 30 years? Okay, we got some old timers here. I love that. That's fantastic. Well, in 1979, I was asked to join the Honokawaii Napili Kapalua Taxpayers Union that Jack Millar, who formed the Napili Kai Beach Club, founded, asked me to join, and the Rotary Club of Lahaina, both simultaneously. And I said, I'd love to do that. And so I joined. The first order of business for them was to make me in charge of membership. And I said, well, first of all, I'm having a hard time even pronouncing Honokawaii Napili Kapalua Taxpayers Union. That was a tongue twister. So I said, if you want me to be in charge of membership, I want to include all of Lahaina and the other areas of West Maui too. So why don't we call it the West Maui Taxpayers? And they said they went along with that. So and I accepted the job 43 years ago, almost 44 years ago. And look at what's happened. I'm still here. I wasn't always president, though, I can tell you that. No, I wasn't always president. The last few years I've been, and it's a privilege and an honor to do that. Also, the president of the West Maui Improvement Foundation, and the West Maui Improvement Foundation came to be for, who lives in Napili and Kapalua area? Okay, Napili and Kapalua, just not a whole lot of them, about 5 or 6 people, but we had a situation there in Napili where there was a real concern. We had one ambulance on this side of the island and the fire station that's just a few minutes away from us here, right across the street right over here. But one ambulance and one fire station, and we had all kinds of concern because sometimes you'd call 911 and it would take up to 2 hours to get an ambulance to your door, 2 hours from. And those of you who were service in the military like me, we found out there's a thing called the golden hour, and that if you don't get to an emergency technician within a golden hour of time, the likelihood of the outcomes that's going to happen to you starts getting worse and worse and scarier, and it's not a good movie at all. So we said we have to do something about that, and we need the county to build another fire and ambulance station. And they said, well, we agree, we do, and maybe 5 to 10 years from now, we'll start on that process. We said, we can't afford to wait 5 or 10 years to that. They says, well, I'm just sorry, there's other higher priorities. So what if we build our own fire and ambulance station? They said, well, my goodness, if you could do that. Yeah, if you build your own and then you're going to give it as a gift to us, we'll staff it and man it and operate it. And that's what Linda Lingle, who was the mayor then, agreed to. So we raised over $6 million and we built the Napili Fire and Ambulance Station. And it's been saving lives ever since then, for the last 20-some years. So that's pretty awesome. Now we found ourselves, yeah, thank you. We found ourselves in a situation where now the people in Laniapoko, Oluwalo are saying, when are we finally going to get tired of having to have the roads closed and the fires that are happening there every single year, sometimes more than once, and they're coming down. One of these times it could destroy Lahaina town. And we're all concerned about that. The Lahaina would go up like a match. It's just those old buildings, something like that. And so one of our reluctant, I was very reluctant. You know how much work it is to do this anyway. I said, well, you know, it's to serve is more important than anything, and that it's time for what in Hawaii what they get was called a hana ho. Does anybody knows what hana ho means? So you see something good, something excellent, everybody says hana ho, hana ho. That means one more time. Let's hear it again or do it again. So that's what we said. The community wants us to do a hana ho for Olawalu and build a fire station there, and we said yes. So we're doing that now, and that's a very exciting thing. I'll talk more about that in my presentation. When I get to, has the mayor arrived yet? He's not here yet? Okay. All right, so Tamara Paulton, our county council member from West Maui, is here. Tamara, do you want to jump ahead of the mayor since he's not here? Is she out there? There she is. Okay, Tamara's our, each area's got an elected council representative. This is our council representative from West Maui, Tamara Paulton. Give her a big hand. And she didn't know that she was going to have to speak right this second. I hope it's okay. Are you ready for that? Okay, so. Oh, okay. So here you go. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Aloha mai kakou. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you to the, all of the West Maui Taxpayers Association for putting on this event. I know a lot of people look forward to the meal they serve every year, as well as the business meeting and how efficiently they run things. I'm not sure how much you folks know about what's going on with the council. We had an inauguration on January 2nd, and normally there's 9 members. This year, 8 people got inaugurated. There is a case in front of the Hawaii Supreme Court that is set to go to oral arguments on Thursday, January 19th. There's a challenge for the Wailuku residency seat. So we haven't been able to organize into committees yet with 8 people. I pushed for it, but there wasn't the votes to get organized into committee. So basically what we've done so far is hire our staff, and we're waiting to see the outcome of the Hawaii Supreme Court case where the Wailuku residency seat has been challenged. There's basically 2 outcomes that could occur. One is they'll seat Alice Lee, who had the most votes, or 2 would be to order a re-election, which could take significantly longer. The last time this happened in the state of Hawaii was in Honolulu County, when there was a challenge to the outcome of the Ozawa Waters race. And in that case, it took 10 days for the Supreme Court to make a ruling, and ultimately they ruled for a re-election. And in the re-election, Tommy Waters won. And then he subsequently became the council chair of Honolulu County. So I'm not a lawyer, and I won't speculate the merits or the outcome of that court case. Just I think it's scheduled to take place at 1 p.m. Thursday, January 19th. We probably won't hear anything right away because they'll need to deliberate and write an opinion, and whatever that opinion may be will determine how we move forward. Our next council meeting is scheduled for January 27th. I'm going to push again for us to organize ourselves, because until we organize committees, we can't really do much, except for, I've been kind of trying to field constituent concerns, but at the same time, this administration is just getting started. So even trying to connect constituents with the new administration is a little bit tough. The first week, they were still getting the new members of the administration emails up and running. And when I had spoken to Corp Counsel earlier this week, she still hadn't gotten an official county email yet. So it's part of the transition. That being said, one of the things that I would like to work on this year, when we first started implementing the transient accommodation tax, it kind of started pretty quick because the state gave that authority to the council or the counties, and the counties implemented it, and it brought in an additional 60 million revenue from tourist accommodations. And with COVID going on and all sorts of things, the administration at that time decided to allocate that revenue into the general fund. I'd like to speak with the administration about using the revenue to mitigate tourist impacts in terms of infrastructure. I do hear a lot of complaints from West Maui residents that our infrastructure is on par with third world countries. And the problem with putting all that revenue into the general fund is it negatively affects our bond rating if we transfer from the general fund to, like, say, the highway fund or the water fund or the solid waste fund. So I'd like to try and talk to the administration about designating percentages or portions towards highway improvements, county highway improvements in West Maui and South Maui, seeing that, from property taxes alone, West and South Maui brings in 40% of the budget. And then now you add in this additional 60 million from tourist accommodation taxes, which aren't solely from South and West Maui, but are predominantly from South and West Maui. So that's one of the things that I'll be trying to work on with the administration, fine-tuning how we find and report illegal short-term rentals. And I'm not sure yet how this administration feels about sea level rise and things like that. I know Mr. Foley in our audience is going to be giving us a presentation about what's going on and what's being proposed for Kahana Bay. But I think ultimately the opinion that matters on that is the administration, and then we'll adjust accordingly.
Sorry? Yeah, sure.
And that's pretty much, I didn't have a lot planned, but I can open it up for questions if anyone had any specific questions. Joe gave the go-ahead.
A question for Tamara?
Ooh.
What can you do to lower our taxes? Is anybody concerned about our tax rates? Okay.
So the owner-occupied tax rate is pretty low. It's if your home is worth less than $800,000 with the homeowner exemption, it's $2 is the tax rate per thousand, and that's the lowest one. And from there, I don't have them all memorized, but the highest ones are in timeshare, hotel, and short-term rental. So we try to give the residents a break.
Thank you, Tamara.
Sure.
Well, everybody give Tamara a thank you. Do we have a question? Sorry? With the microphone? Okay.
The general fund. Yeah, so right now, like, we have special funds, they're called, and like the water fund is self-funding because not everybody that lives in Maui County gets county water. Some people get private water source, and so it's the Department of Water Supply is funded by the users of the county water. But we had a situation recently, the water is the same source if it's coming from Honokohau. And we had a situation recently, even though this is historically one of the wettest times of year for Maui, we're having abnormally very low rainfall to the point where they have shut down the Mahinahina water treatment facility. And one subdivision, Alahoku, didn't have water. And when the residents were calling the outgoing mayor, they were told, this is why we're telling people to conserve water. You need to pray for rain. And obviously, that's not acceptable, especially when the residents are seeing the resorts not conserving water. So I'm thinking, if so much water is being used that, there's an imbalance where the hotels are having from the same source that the county water is having from Honokohau, that we need to look at comprehensive conservation measures, because currently we can only tell county water users to conserve. We can't tell private water users to conserve. And this is a kind of a trend: less rain, less water. It's part of the reason why I was supportive of the ground and surface water area designation for West Maui, because the state would then oversee all water users and can prioritize, possibly affordable homes, residential homes over luxury homes, more hotels, and like that. So that designation got accepted by the Commission on Water Resource Management August of last year. All water users have 1 year to put in a water use permit application, and pretty much existing users are in. It's just the new users that would be scrutinized. But that's an example of tourism using water, and then there not being enough water per se at that time for whatever reason to get water to existing homes. We've heard some rumors as to what was happening, like a broken pipe or a broken pump. I have sent a transmittal to the administration with a request that they respond by January 19th to find out, what exactly happened, if it's an interim solution, what is the long-term solution. So I'm still waiting for an answer on that. But if we were to transfer money from the general fund to the water fund, which is self-funded, or transfer money from the general fund to the highway fund, which is generally funded by gas tax, vehicle registration, and things like that, it would negatively affect our bond rating. So then if we take out a bond for any kind of capital improvement projects, we wouldn't get as low of an interest rate. And traditionally, we've had really good bond ratings, so we get very low interest rates so that we can do these types of CIP projects and not pay a lot of interest in the long run. So things that are generally funded by the general fund are like police, fire, parks and recreation, county government, but not necessarily our infrastructure needs like county roads. Solid waste has its own fund, so like rubbish dumps and things like that, because not everybody uses county rubbish services, not everybody uses county water services, not everybody uses county wastewater services. So those are special funds. What makes up the general fund usually is property taxes.
Okay, wow. I hope that, any more questions? We got one in the back.
Peg.
What is it?
Oh.
Oh. Did you want to deal with that?
Sure. The short answer would be Department of Public Works if it's a county road, and State Department of Transportation if it's a state road. They do have some formula I'm not privy to how they determine which roads they would do first, but that's another problem. That's why I feel like the transient accommodation tax should go into highway funds specifically for South and West Maui to fund those. We're receiving less revenue in the highway fund because a lot of folks are switching to EV. They're not paying gas taxes. During the pandemic, a lot of the rental cars got shipped off, so that's all that registration revenue. So what we're dealing with is decreasing revenue in the highway fund, increasing needs, and I think that a portion of that can be offset by that transient accommodation tax, because a lot of the revenue comes in from tourists, and this is a pretty touristy place.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna have to limit that because we've got a whole big bunch of programs. Give Tamara a big hand right now. Thank you, Tamara. Thank you so much. Is the mayor show up? Is the mayor here yet? Hello, the mayor's not here yet? Okay, all right. Well, the mayor's not here yet, so I didn't know that. I thought the mayor was here. Okay, it's almost 6 o'clock. Well, then what we'll do is that I'll go. Vanessa, you see the mayor out there yet? Anybody? No? All right. Okay, well, one of our, we know that he knows about this, and he confirmed with me last week that he'd be here today, so we'll just go on with our program, and when he does come in, we'll go from there. We've got a number of presentations that you can see that are on our list today, and I don't want to short them with time. We've got Mike Foley from Kahana Bay Restoration, Preston Chang, Pulelehua Housing Development, Pamela Eaton, the new Maui Metropolitan Planning Director with Maui State Transportation. She can talk about some of those things. And Joanne Johnson Weiner, West Maui Hospital Foundation's Executive Director. So there's quite a bit there. I hope everybody's got a program. If you haven't got one, we've got copies at our registration desk. Please get one. It talks about our annual meeting rules, the meeting rules of aloha and things like that. We hope that you can appreciate that, and the mahalos, the people we have to thank for this meeting. Akaku here, Akaku TV is right here. They're filming this. Is this being broadcast live, guys? Is this being broadcast live? No, it's not being live. It is. It is live via Facebook or live. Oh, it's recording it. Okay, it's being recorded, and it will be replayed both on our website and on Akaku, and any other way it's going to be done, will let us know, and we'll make sure it's out, that everybody finds out how to see a rebroadcast of that. I know if you go to our website at westmaui.org, you can see historically the last annual meetings we had, last community presentations we've had, all kinds of incredible information is there for you at westmaui.org. And there's still more food out there. So if you're still hungry, please go out and get seconds, get some more helpings. So when the mayor comes up, somebody let me know when the mayor shows up. So I'll start in the first presentation. Vanessa's going to help me here. We've got a screen here, and I don't know if I need to do something with the lights. Okay, there's so many things to be talked about. See, the West Maui taxpayers, we do a broad representation of every type of thing. The reason why we were formed to come together is to represent the collective interests. You heard briefly from Tamara about taxes. West Maui's pays over 50% of the entire revenue to the County of Maui, and the state of Hawaii gets over 50% of all its revenue from the County of Maui from West Maui alone. That's how much money. So West Maui is a key economic engine for the county and the state. And our job and our mission has been saying, okay, now that's being the case, we need better roads, we need better everything, we need all this stuff, because we should be getting, what you want to do is preserve and protect that income stream. That's the whole key. I mean, it's not going to stay that way all the time unless you preserve it and protect it and enhance it. And that means to take care of the infrastructure and give it the type of services to make it a quality destination, and to maintain and preserve and protect that income stream. So that's been our job, and we've done quite. Those of you who have been here 20-some years know that a lot of the things that people they take for granted wouldn't have come to be had it not been for the West Maui taxpayers. Things is basically like we have an aquatic center. We wouldn't have had that aquatic center if it wasn't for us. We have a senior center. That wouldn't have been there if it wasn't for us. We have a skate park. That wouldn't have been there. By S-turns, there's a little beach park, Pohaka Beach Park. That used to be an S-turns road that people had an accident on every week, and we thanks to us, we got that with federal funds and state grant, we got that straightened out and made a park and saved lives there. And so there's a lot of things on the website you need to see. The West Maui taxpayers is there fighting for you. And our main thing now is that we're concerned about Lahaina town. We're really worried that Lahaina is in danger. For those of you who don't know, let's go to the next slide. There we go. Did everybody have their smartphones on and see the fire that happened just about a month ago? There's a very blurry picture of it. I guess the Wi-Fi reception here is not as good as we would hope it to be, where you can see the actual flames and burning smoke as it's there. You can see it on our website. You can see it in our office. We rehearsed this before we came here, and now you can't see it here because the Wi-Fi connection is bad. But the main point is over 2,000 acres burned, and had the wind been blowing downhill instead of uphill like it did, we might not be talking here today, because that fire could have just came across like the one it did in August of 2018, burned 25 homes, and just came this close to hopping over Lahaina Luna Road. In that case, we would have had another major disaster. So every single year, it's notorious. We have these fires so often, so frequently, it's actually notorious. And it shuts down our only way to get to the one hospital we have on the other side of the island. It shuts down that one artery, that in and out. So we end up isolated here. People can't come into work. They can't go home. Tourists who were here can't get to their hotels. They can't get out of their hotels. I mean, we've had some really interesting situations here that happen on an annual basis. So Olowalu Fire Station is a real high priority for us, for all of West Maui. Not just for the people who reside in Olowalu. There's over 700 homes in that area. They really need this to preserve and protect them, to get better service. We're hoping the county will add on to our fire station by adding an ambulance service, adding other services to that. We're just trying to present going forward with starting off with the fire station at our expense, 100%. We will give it to the county, a gift, and then they will agree to operate it, staff it, and maintain it. And add further improvements. Next slide. There's the location. For those of you who've been to the Olowalu area, you might know that there's that little red circle there in the middle there. That is a portion of Lot 22, Makai of Luawai Street. There's an actual street sign there at Luawai Street. Right across from that Camp Olowalu is on mile marker 14.5. It's approximately 2 acres. The fire chief and his battalion chiefs met with us. We went upstairs, so I got 1 minute left. Okay. And we checked out that location, and he picked out the spot. The fire chief is the one who picked out that spot. Then we found out, okay, who owns that land? And we found out it was owned by Olowalu Homes, Inc., and we contacted them, and Peter Martin is the president of Olowalu Homes, Inc. He said, yes, he would donate the land for the purpose. So let's give him a big hand for that. You got to start with something. You okay? The mayor, I can't hear what you say. The mayor? Oh. The mayor's coming? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. All right. Somebody's trying to tell me something, but I didn't know it. I guess did you say the mayor's coming or not? He's coming. All right, the mayor's coming. All right. So anyway, I wish we would have had this 26 years ago, but there's a brand new technology now called EMB modular fire stations in Canada. They build and construct in a warehouse like mass production fire stations. And it sounds just like, that's why, there's the mayor. Fantastic. Mayor Bisson. So just a minute, Mayor, I want to wipe down my presentation real quick. These modular stations are just a fraction of the cost, and they're just so fantastic. Next slide. That's a floor plan of a 4-bedroom station. Sole source justifications. It's the only modular builder that specializes in first responder facilities. The structure is built entirely non-combustible steel components. It includes integral heavy-duty steel foundation capable of supporting any size of apparatus, can be placed on any stable compacted surface. Additional concrete foundations are not necessary. Full-size apparatus bays are fully assembled and shipped in one piece to ensure their structural integrity and to minimize installation time. It's a permanent, not a or a relocatable facility. Just instead of reading every one of these things, I can tell you in short that every single thing and concern that you could have about this being something to go forward has been answered. The city of Miami-Dade County in Miami, Florida, heard about this. They sent an investigating team down to the plant in Canada. They looked at the places that they had assembled and sold, and they said after 6 months of due diligence, we want 3 of these. They bought 3 of them to use there, and so that's what you would want a stamp of credibility to what we're proposing. We got it from Dade County. So next slide, please. Mahalo. So. Thank you. That's a short and sweet, and we're going to have lots of information on this on our website. But I don't know. There's the gentleman I'm going to introduce you, Mayor Bisson. I'm so excited about him. The first time I met him, he came to our Rotary Club of Lahaina, and the first thing out of his mouth was a song. This guy can sing. I'm telling you, he's fantastic. He sang this wonderful song, and I thought, how wonderful was this to have this first word singing us this beautiful song and this great voice. And then he went on to explain who he was and why he was running for mayor. Well, he did such a good job. He got elected, and here he is. So let's give him a big hand, please. Have him come up here. Thank you so much for coming. Let's see you.
Aloha mai kākou. E kala mai ia'u for being late, but I drove the speed limit as I was coming in, knowing you were expecting us here. Thank you so very much for the invitation to come and address you. I just want to say a few things, and of course leave time for others who are going to make presentations tonight. So we've come out to the West Side on a few occasions to ask questions from you folks, so you could tell us what we needed to know in our new administration as we were preparing for this, as well as some solutions you folks had. And I just want to say we're hard at work putting our cabinet together. We do have to go before the council to have our members approved. And again, if you are interested in supporting our administration, one of the ways you can do so is by lending your support, lending your voices to the names of the people. If you agree with the choices we've made for directors, of course, the deputy directors do not require going through council approval, but the directors do, so I'd appreciate your help in that. So one of the things we know about we're dealing with, of course, is climate change, ocean, sea, rising sea levels, and all of those things that have happened. So one of the things we're doing in our administration is we've started an Office of Innovation. That Office of Innovation is a team. We didn't hire any new people. We didn't start any new divisions. All I did was reassign some of the people that were already in the mayor's office or positions. We already had a climate change resiliency group that was made up of 4, so we used those 4. And then I took 2 people that were previously used as liaisons, and I've made them into our Office of Innovation. So we have a 6-member team. They're not all filled. We're looking for 2 more folks to being interviewed. But they're going to cut across all the departments. They're working right now with Johnson Controls, one of the groups that we're continuing with the work that was started before us. And there was some good work that was going on. And so Johnson Controls is an organization that is working on us for sustainable, renewable energy, carbon emissions, reducing carbon emissions. So we do have now a group that's out, part of our cabinet, whose job will be, again, addressing whether it's in planning, whether it's in parks, whether it's in public works, whether it's electrifying our fleet of vehicles, getting in better quality of lighting in our community centers, at our parks. That's one of the focuses we have, and that also came out of our meetings in this community. That was one of the things that was talked about, and some of the solutions we're trying to implement. I believe I read from Hawaii Community Foundation, there are 5,764 housing units that are expected to come online in West Maui by the year 2030. And that's something, again, to look at. I know that was another issue that came out of our community meetings. Housing, whether it's rental housing, affordable housing, kupuna housing, family. I mean, there's all sorts of categories, and I think you're going to get a presentation tonight, maybe from on one of those areas. But again, something that was already in the works, already in the pipeline. They're at different stages, you should understand. They're not all online, ready to go, but they are planned. And I'm sure others in this room could talk more about that. I'm celebrating my 8th day anniversary today on the job. Yeah, so, you know. So I don't know if I have to take my wife out to dinner or what happens on the 8th day. I don't know what gift you give on your 8th day, but I'm saying that to prepare you and to manage your expectations that I don't have all the answers. We're still at that team building stage and, you know, trying to get our feet under us and doing the best we can, again, assembling the team and taking what we've learned. The message I really wanted to leave you with is, those of you who have come to some of the meetings in the past, just so you know, we've taken all of your comments, we've compiled them, we have them, and we're going to try to get to the addressing part of it. So that's what I hope to do. Thank you again for inviting me and having me out here today. That's all I have for you. Thank you so much.
Want to bother with any Q&A?
Now or after tomorrow? Up to you. You want to wait till?
You want?
Now or after tomorrow?
So Myra already spoke?
Okay, I'll go now then.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay, sorry, I didn't know. I'm supposed to ask if there are any questions? And Joe's going to answer them all, just so you know. Yeah. Anything about the fire station? No. Yes, you had a hand up. All right, great question. So our number one goal is water resources, developing more water resources. Everything else we talk about doesn't matter if we don't have water. So to me, that's our first priority. You folks just face that more. Maybe this is a sensitive subject right now because of what you folks faced last week and the week before then. So I think it brought it home very clear that that has to be a priority for our county. You know, I grew up here like a lot of you probably in this room, and sometimes we take things for granted. One of those things is our water. Someone told me this, and I repeat it because I like it and I agree with it. We should treat our water as if we live on an island. Does that make sense? Because sometimes we don't. We turn the faucet on, the water comes out, we don't know where it comes from, we don't know how it gets there, we just know it comes out. I think we're at that time, and maybe I should have said this earlier in my remarks, one of the things we need to focus on, and it's going to be involved in those 3 top things that you asked me about, is infrastructure. You know, we have an aging population, our kupuna. Well, we have aging infrastructure too, kind of going in line with that. And at some point, you got to face the music and do the repairs or do the replacement or do the maintenance on them. We're at that point now. Our thinking in our administration is generational thinking, generational impact, not thinking in terms of 2 and 4 year cycles, but 2 and 4 generations. That's not a very political savvy thing to do, I can say to all of you. That's why a lot of people don't think those ways, because you might not get reelected or even elected to begin with. But at some point, we got to do what's best for our long-term community. And one of that is repairing our infrastructure. Part of our infrastructure is our water system, right? Pipes that burst, things. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So I would like to make that a priority. I'd like us to see if we can develop more water sources and not just rely on the systems that we rely on now. Whether you agree with development, whether you agree with building more homes, whether you don't, doesn't matter to me. The point is we should still develop this water source and resource for whatever needs we have. So that's number one. I think it's fair to say, if you were obviously watching during the campaign, housing would be number 2. Housing is a very tricky subject to talk about. Because if you already have a home, you think there's enough homes. Because you have one. If you don't have a home, you would like to have one. Or else you got to move somewhere else and live somewhere else so you can get a home. So again, that's a very sensitive subject for our community to have. And some people, and we could be divided on that. I get it, right? Having a solution that pleases everybody all the time is not guaranteed. In fact, it's likely not to happen. So I think we gotta talk about housing. And when I say housing, I know we're gonna have a presentation, I believe, if I missed that too, I don't know what I missed being late, but so we can talk about affordable housing, we can talk about affordable rentals. Thank you for that reminder. I have a cue card, by the way, that's in case I forget my lines. I'm just kidding. No, so, right, we can talk about affordable rentals, leasing, fee simple, whatever that is. But if we're gonna keep using the word affordable housing, then people should be able to afford them. When we talk about affordable housing, the focus is on the price of the home. When we talk about kama'aina housing, the focus is on who's living in the home, who buys the home, who gets to live in that home. If we just build 500 new homes and sell them to 400 people who move here from somewhere else, we haven't done anything for the housing market. Let me just tell you, we're gonna keep having this conversation like we've had my whole childhood and what we're still having now. I'm not gonna tell you how old I am, but I look pretty old, yeah, you guys. But who buys the home, who lives in the home is the serious conversation we need to have in terms of the policies we set and the policies we decide that are important. Because if all we're gonna do is check the box, well, built more homes, did our job, and not worry about who buys them, who lives in them, then I think we have a big blind spot. And then the third conversation is kind of a tie, but they both start with the letter E. So economy and environment are the two, they're kind of a tie, if you ask me. Some days the economy seems to be the bigger discussion, and other days it's going to be the environment. I think they're both important, but you only asked me for 3 and I snuck in 4. So I try to be real compliant with the questions and answers I get. Were there any other questions? Yes. Thank you. Yes. Yes. Yeah, I could hear those questions. That was actually only 2 questions, just in case you were sure. And I did hear it, and if I didn't, I'm just gonna answer the one I thought I heard. Nah. Okay, so let me talk about the water that you asked about. One of the ways we can do a better job of water, so there are other places in the world that take wastewater and turn it into drinking water. I'm sure many of you know that already, because they have to resort to that, right? We're one of the few places in the world that still takes completely fine drinking water and we flush it down our toilets every day. Every hotel room, and I'm not picking on hotels, but every hotel room in Kaanapali and Wailea and any other parts of the island, and all of your homes, all have completely good drinking water in those toilets that we flush. Maybe it's time we think about having a dual water system in our homes, one that only goes to wastewater where you can process it and bring it right back to the house again, only to be used for that. Think of a water feature at a hotel, a waterfall feature that you just see them rotating through. You're gonna get some evaporation, of course, but they just keep using the same water. It's not running water. You guys all know this. But we're at the point now where we may have to face that one day, or the generations that follow us. Maybe we can start doing it now. And let me compare it to something. Most of you probably remember when we didn't have a requirement for sprinkler systems in the buildings, fire suppression sprinkler systems. We know now it's typical, it's the law. We do it now. I can imagine when it first started, that must have been a very difficult thing for some businesses to have to put that in a new building or even retrofit an old building. Well, that's where we're at, I think, with thinking about using our water and how we are not as efficient with our water as we could be. That's just one example. So I'm glad you said reclaimed water, because I was following you until I thought you were talking about something else, but I got you when you said the word reclaim. One of the reasons you folks had an injection well problem out here on the west side is because you didn't know what to do with that R1 water. You didn't have enough places to put it. So it went in the ground and it came out into the ocean, right? If we can find more ways to capture or reuse R1 water, we have plenty of water. And here's that difficult conversation I mentioned about in another subject, but here's the one about water. When you're in Kahana and you're not getting water out of your pipe and you see the golf course is green, you think that the golf course is using your drinking water. Some of you, not all of you. But you understand that they're using reclaimed water, and that's a good use of it. But believe it or not, we have more R1 water than we have uses for it. Now there's reasons, because we don't have anywhere to store it. So you got to create storage, or you got to put it somewhere. So I'm not the expert on water. Did I tell you this was my 8th day? Okay, good. Thank you for cutting me a little bit slack. But I'm sure there's some of you in this room that have some great ideas about how we can capture that, put in a reservoir, all those things. But the cost of pumping water uphill in a reservoir is also cost prohibitive. So there's some practical things we got to talk about. And that's where you bring the experts in. So I think whether we put the water back into the same area or use it somewhere that can be used, I am in favor of us not dumping R1 water, but making good use of it. And then, of course, keeping our drinking water, as pure and plentiful as possible. Now, I've completely forgot that second question, but as soon as you tell me something, I'll remember it. Cut Mountain, okay, yes. There's long been a conversation. Of course, we've got to move our roads from Palawea all the way to Puamana, or at least as far down as we got, right? You guys know we got to move that road further in. The question will be, what will we do with that existing road that's there? I think we can do everything, and I'm sure we'll have more ideas than what I can think of, but having more walking trails, biking trails, camping areas, things that people are, we live in an outdoor culture. We come from an outdoor culture. Many people in this room, many people in our society, our community, that's one of the things that we love about being, not just in Maui, but in Hawaii, obviously Molokai and Lanai. So we like to be outdoors. We could do more with that area. Maybe, I mean, I heard one of the suggestions you just gave, but I had other ideas about how we might use that area to have more places for local people to go. Again, whether it's a fitness trail, a biking trail, a hiking trail, a camping area. I had not thought about, thank you, Saman, but I had not thought about it to be somewhere where we could house our houseless population. So give me some time to think about that. I don't know if that's the location. I think you're saying that because they're already there. So you're saying, well, why not, just kind of merge into some project. But yeah, I sort of saw that as being somewhere else for the entire community, but I've not thought enough about your suggestion. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, once one goes there, everybody figures that's the place, and they all bring theirs. And I think if you talk to the folks in Paia and Haiku and that part of the island, they'll tell you where there's a few of those, car graveyards or boneyards, or I'm not even sure what to call them anymore. But will the county commit to cleaning that up? I think the county, and I should talk to our environmental management department, who I think is the most likely department to be responsible for that. I'd kind of like to know what our current program is for removing derelict vehicles in roads, whether there's one or two or a whole bunch of them. I'm sure there must be some system the county has, so I don't want to stand here and start a new one without knowing. Probably if I knew that question, I might have thought to ask somebody before I got here. I do not know what we currently have. Does anybody know? Anybody here work for the county that knows what we do? Okay. Okay. Is that a county number or something else? Do you know? Okay. All right, so we have something. Right. I wish I could take credit, but that obviously happened before our administration. So there's something in place. There's something in place. Yeah. Well, thank you for doing that. Yeah, I'm sure there are reasons why, but yeah, I think the answer was, do we have a place to send them? And apparently we do. Okay. There's a number. There's a number to call. We know a guy. Yeah. Yes. So it is within the Department of Environmental Management. Councilmember Paulton has reminded me, and it's called Environmental Protection and Sustainability. Sounds like the one that removes cars, yeah? Perfect. Perfect name for that. Yes, that means they were there more than 48 hours. So the police have to make sure somebody didn't just leave their car on the side of the road and take a trip to the mainland and is coming back and no more car when they come back. So most of them fit the description of a car that looks like, no more tires, no more engine. Yeah, that's probably one we can dispose of. That's the other thing. Yes, very good point, Councilmember. It has to be on public property. So if it's on your own, private property, I guess you can do what you want on your private property, but not on public. Again, I know there's more presentations, so I thank you very much for your attention. Aloha. Thank you. Mahalo ba.
Thank you so much, Mayor Bisson. Well, we're excited about him in his office, and as he said, he's 8 days on the job, but he's still here. That is so awesome that he just now took over this monumental job, and that he's here today. I thank you so much for that. That is just, it's a wonderful thing. We appreciate him, and we're looking forward to working with him together, because this is what it's all about. We said what aloha meant, always love over hate always. We got to come together and work together and unite in the things that we agree upon. And I'm sure we can find all kinds of things we don't agree upon, but the things we do agree upon, we'd like this idea of public-private partnerships working together with local government and seeing how we can collectively work together to get them done. Our Napili Fire and Ambulance Station was one that's never been done before. It's worked great. We're trying to do a repeat here, Hanaho at Olawalo. That's another one. We did similar things before with the Napili State Park and Napili Park, the Aquatic Center and the Senior Center, and many other things. We've worked together in public-private partnerships and got things done faster and much more efficiently for the common good. And we're looking forward to working with the mayor and his administration and the council in that same light, in that same vein. Let's work together and unite together. We're in the same canoe. This Kahana Bay Beach Restoration Project, those of you I saw this presentation on the web. I think, did anybody else see it besides me? Raise your hand. Just a few. Oh, good. So I'm glad that Mike Foley's here to show it to us, because it's very, very impressive. Mike and his team with OceanID and the Kahana Bay Association have been studying this issue for a number of years. Well, let's bring him up here. I'll tell you all about it. Please join me in welcoming Mike Foley. Mike, thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everyone. What a pleasure to be here with all you West Maui taxpayers. I'll give you a little background on myself. You can call me Mike. I grew up in Haiku, and so I'm a taxpayer as well in Maui County. I'm proud to be. And I work for a company called OceanNet. So after growing up in Maui, I went to college in the mainland, and then I came back to University of Hawaii at Manoa, and have had the pleasure to work as a professional engineer now for many years in Honolulu. And let's see. Okay, there we go. I'm here today to represent the Kahana Bay Steering Committee, which they've hired the company I work for, OceanNet. It's a consulting engineering firm, and the Kahana Bay Steering Committee is a group of condominium AOs, as well as one single family residential property, which is actually a kuleana lot. So it's an important lot for the Hawaiian family that has grown up there for generations and fishes out of that parcel. It's their kind of their access to the ocean and to the commercial fishing grounds off West Maui. There's 9 condominium complexes in this group, and it's about 960 units. How many of you are familiar with Kahana Beach, and this area? All right, pretty much everyone. I hope all of you have walked this beach, and I hope you've walked it recently. Mr. Mayor, have you walked down Kahana Beach? I really encourage you to. This is the current situation. It's one of the worst erosion situations in the state, and I can say that with some expertise, being that I work on erosion mitigation all over the state of Hawaii. The reason is we have multiple story condominium complexes just feet away from falling in the ocean. If any of you remember, how many of you remember seeing on the news this past winter when a house fell on the beach on the North Shore? Right, so a lot of you have seen that. Imagine if that was a condominium complex and the environmental nightmare it would be, not only for the loss of course, inhabited space, and we're talking about the limited amount of residences in Maui, but sewage systems, other utilities, glass, concrete, all of this debris. In addition to just the risk to public health and safety, to the environment, we're also losing cultural resources, the environment, public access along the shoreline. So the erosion issue is very pressing. We're losing the beach, and of course that's a public resource, as you all know. So really our project here in Kahana is about restoring the shoreline for the enjoyment of all people, but also to protect the homes, the utilities, the infrastructure in this area. As a consulting engineer, our role was really to do an environmental study. And because this is a regional project and we're looking at basically the erosion from S-turns from Pahaku Beach Park, as Joe mentioned, important place, all the way to the stream mouth at Kahana. It's about 3,800 feet or so of shoreline. That's almost 3/4 of a mile. And because that's such an extensive area, this required an environmental impact statement. So to do an environmental impact statement, we had to evaluate all the alternatives to mitigating erosion. So you can think of probably the most famous alternative on everyone's top of your mind might be seawalls. So we looked at building a continuous seawall from one end of the bay to the other. We also looked at another hot topic in Maui right now is managed retreat. In addition to those, we also looked at the option of restoring the beach to what it used to be, going back to a benchmark, in this case 1975, and looking at how the beach has changed since the 70s, which happens to be when a lot of these condos were developed originally, and looking at how we can bring back that beach and restore that area, and that beach acting as kind of nature's buffer to protect the inland resources. To do this EIS, we had to look at all the impacts: social, cultural, economic, environmental, the two E's, and ocean resources, marine habitat. So what we came up with through this evaluation was a preferred alternative. And this alternative has 3 components. It's beach nourishment, which means getting sand and bringing it back to the beach to restore its width, its volume, its elevation. Also creating a vegetated berm. So that's basically like a small sand dune with vegetation so that when the winds blow in Kahana, as they carry the sands towards the condominium properties, they interact with the leaves and the blades of grass and it drops the sand. Basically, nature's way of sustaining a beach and sustaining that resource, that sand resource to the system. And then finally, because we know we have sea level rise, we have a long-term trend of sand loss from the Kahana beach cell, we're looking at beach stabilization. Now that's where I come in as a coastal engineer, because we're talking about building coastal structures to change the currents, the wave patterns, and basically stabilize that area. So this is the preferred plan, and in our EIS, which is a public document, you can, it's posted online. You can all read the other plans, but this is our preferred plan: 7 T-head groins and 1 reinforced headland at the Kahana stream mouth. So these 7 groins, they would basically go out into the ocean a little over 200 feet, and they would have T's at the end, which the T's are about 200 feet wide, so there's a gap of about 300 feet between each T, and that gap allows wave energy in. But those 200-foot wide T's, they act as a filter. So we're breaking waves, but not all the waves, but a part of the wave, so that we have the right amount of wave energy to push the sand and to keep it up against the beach. So we're basically creating 6 coves in a place where there is no coves today. So you can imagine that's an environmental impact. We're changing the aesthetics, we're changing the way the currents move, we're changing the wave patterns, the shore break, but we're also restoring the width of this beach in Kahana to the benchmark, which is the red line, which is that 1975 width. And so that's about 65 feet on average wider than it is today. Now, where do we get the sand? Well, we need 50 to 100,000 cubic yards, so about 75,000 cubic yards of sand to do this project, to bring all that sand back that we've lost. Just so happens that there's a great sand resource right offshore. And we've done extensive testing of this sand. Basically what we would do is dredge it. So we'd have a machine out there, a barge. We'd scoop the sand out of the ocean. We'd bring it to the beach. And the shaded areas are sand resources. The 2 closest to shore are the best resources in terms of the quality. We've tested the sand extensively, and it's beach quality sand according to the state standards. I won't bore you with all the details. As mentioned, there's another presentation online that kind of goes over the science, a lot more details on the construction project in general. Councilmember Paulton hosted us, and so that presentation is available, I think, on your Facebook. But in general, we'd be basically elevating and widening the beach. And in this cross-section image, you see the shaded area. So the yellow area, that's the sand that would be above water level. And we'd also be adding sand below water level. That's the blue area. So you can imagine one of the main concerns might be, by putting all this sand in the ocean, are you smothering any coral resources, fish habitat, etc.? Well, the main way that we mitigate for that, or really reduce that impact, is by, again, working within this 1975 benchmark. So the sand that we're adding to the ocean, there used to be sand there decades ago. So any corals that are there, any habitat, this is relatively new, new species. We're not going out to the pristine coral reef that's centuries old. In addition, by building these groins, we're also creating fish habitat. If any of you dive, snorkel, you know that fish generally hang out in places where they have places to hide. And so by building groin structures that are made of rock, and sometimes precast concrete that have a lot of grooves and nooks and crannies, we're basically creating fish habitat. And we need more fish on the reef. Every fisherman knows that. So that's another positive benefit. These are just a couple of schematic sketches, basically showing you what the beach looks like today on the top and what we're envisioning it to look like in the future after the widening, after the nourishment, the berm development, and also the construction of the groins. Again, these are all in the EIS. So as taxpayers, I want to leave you with what you can do to support this effort, but in more general, what you can do to support Maui's infrastructure in the future and some of the development that we're kind of talking about needing, water systems, etc. This being, of course, coastal management, which I think is needed many places in Maui County. So we've done a draft environmental impact statement, and we can go to a final impact statement, and then we can go get the permits and then hire a construction company to do the project. But ultimately, it needs funding and it needs leadership. It needs the government to basically come in and help in some areas. Now, as taxpayers, we probably all don't want to pay taxes to just help Kahana solve their erosion issue. But there's a solution to this, and that's through a community facilities district. So Maui County now has an ordinance that allows us to form these special districts, which basically tax property owners within that specific district, which is defined. So the properties themselves, the TMKs, are all defined. Those property owners, they pay a special tax to the county in exchange for the county to float a bond that would pay for the development company to do a project like this. Currently, the CFD, the rules for Maui County haven't been defined. So that's something that our county council needs to take up and basically pass the rules so that Kahana, my client, can apply for this community facilities district in addition to any other communities that want to apply for special infrastructure projects like this. So that's it in a nutshell. Basically, our EIS, we go through an analysis of all the economic, the social impacts, the cultural impacts, the habitat impacts. For the most part, this project, there's a lot of benefits. I think this audience today, I think you all know just how important our property taxes are to the county. And basically, this project is meant to preserve that. And at the same time restore public area at the cost of those taxpayers in this district. So I think it's a win-win, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Mike did a great job here. What we're going to do now is we're going to continue with all the presentations and then ask for questions on anything that came up that wasn't already covered in the prior presentations. So just a matter of time. And if you would like to write down your question, we've got paper here at our registration desk. If you have a specific question you want to be sure is covered, please get from our registration desk, get a piece of paper and write it down, and then we'll make sure that if it's not answered here tonight, we'll get it answered for you and get it to you, okay? We want to have all the presentations first, and I'm excited, I know you all are, about the presentations we've had so far. Those of you who saw the exhaustive, detailed EIS presentation that Mr. Foley did on the website, and that you can still see, we'll find out that this is an incredible amount of work that they did. West Maui Taxpayers believes in preserving and protecting the tax base. That area over there is $1 billion of tax base. $1 billion. You know how much that is? Without Kahana Bay contributing, everybody who's a resident here would have to take their property taxes, increase it 10 times, and still wouldn't cover how much benefit they're getting from that tax base. So everybody's really benefiting from Kahana Bay and what this can do to preserve and protect that tax base. Our position is to preserve and protect that tax base. We're all for the Groyan project ourselves as the preferred recommendation. Preston Chang and his dad is here, both of them. Paul and Preston, they're those of you who haven't met them before, they're so impressive. They've come here and against all odds have got everybody loving them of what they're presenting. They really know their business. They know what they're doing. They've got great experience, and they're just great, nice people on top of all that. They've took on a project that Pulilehua was something way back with us, the West Maui Taxpayers. One of our directors, Bob McNatt, was the vice president of development for Kapalua, Maui Land and Pineapple, and that was one of their projects that got all these approvals, and then the company just was a financial victim of the collapse of our country's finances and went away, and we thought, oh my gosh. But it was resurrected by Mr. Chang, Paul, and his interest, and he looked at that and see what could be done. He presented it to the council, the state land use committees, all these different organizations he met with in person, which is amazing. You know, he didn't send, I'll have my people talk to your people. That didn't happen. Himself, the president, and his son were the ones who came and made their presentations, asked the questions, and you don't see that nowadays, but it is with them. We're just very enamored and impressed by them. And I think you'll see in their presentation, and as soon as they're getting it organized here, that they've got a great project, and it's accommodating, it's meeting the needs that have been expressed to them by the county and the state. And you just don't get unanimous approvals like they've gotten unless you're doing something right. And they were doing it right. How close are we? Very close, okay. So they have a website for those of you, everybody's got a smartphone nowadays. If you go to pulilehua.com, you'll see this phenomenal website of information where they've got a lot of details that are there. And so that's there now, but for those of you who haven't seen this presentation before or want to know the update, where it's at, when's it going to start, these kind of things, I think those are the questions that you'll be able to get answers to today in this presentation. Okay, we got a whole bunch of thumb drives going in there. Are we ready? Would you like the mic?
Yeah, we can do that. Aloha, West Maui. How are we doing? Thank you for hosting me today. It is great to see you all here at the West Maui Taxpayers Association annual meeting. I am Preston Chang. I'm one of the developers of the Pulilehua project. I believe this presentation is coming up here. What happened? We had it. This looks okay, huh? Why is it not on that screen, though? We may have to drag it. Yeah, that's good advice. Look at that. See, community effort here, making things happen. Okay. I wonder if there's a better way we can... There we go. That looks pretty good, right? Y'all see that? All right, guys. Here, we did it. For lack of... to give you guys just a quick update, Joe did a great job introducing us. Thank you, Joe, for inviting me back. My last presentation was back in 2019, and as Joe alluded to, we have been very busy. Since 2019, we have received the support of the State Land Use Commission for our project. We have received our Phase 2 approvals for this project. We have received our Phase 3 approvals for this project. We are itching to get going. To remind everyone of the community what we have basically gotten approved here as a summary of the project scope, we have one of the largest affordable housing projects in West Maui, one of the largest rental projects of West Maui, and one of the most recent affordable for sale projects of West Maui. To remind you all of the accomplishment, we have 240 units coming online in West Maui for our first phase. That first phase is consisted of 60 affordable for sale units, 60 workforce rental units, and 120 rental units. The entire development will consist of a total of 300 affordable multifamily units, 100 affordable for sale units, 400 market rate rental units, 100 single family lots with the potential of 100 additional Ohana units that are deed restricted affordable as well. The community also supports a 13-acre school site that was dedicated to the Department of Education, along with a 10-acre community park and 124 acres of greenbelt and open spaces with trails, allowing residents to hike and bike across the community. We also have approximately 70,000 square feet of retail that we hope to finish at the very end after all the units and family housing units are completed. And really, we want to understand what West Maui needs at that point before we even consider adding anything else. To describe you briefly about the affordable AMI mix, we have a spread for the for sale products with 20 units underneath the 60% AMI, 20 units at the 60 to 80% AMI, 40 units from 80 to 100% AMI, and 20 units from 100 to 120% AMI. For the rentals, we have 100 below 80%, 100 units between 80 and 100, and 100 between 100 and 120. Here is a look at the overall site plan. It is over 304 acres right underneath the Kapalua Airport. Right, we're kind of divided by Akahele. Our first phase of the project, or here's some project highlights, just to kind of remind everyone what type of product are we actually bringing here. Pulelehua features a single-story design, something that really blends in with the hillside. We have direct access parking for our residents, so that it really feels like you have a great sense of ownership. You're not walking down some infinitely long, confusing hallway. You are parking your car and walking straight to your unit. We have energy efficient air conditioning, tile flooring, and e-windows featured as well in these homes. Community amenities that will be spread out through the development include barbecue stations, pocket parks. We have the hike and bike trails that were mentioned. We're close to most of West Maui's work centers. All the hotels kind of sandwich this development with Kapalua and Kanapali on either side. We have 2 different bus stops that were programmed, and as mentioned, over 100 acres of open space. Looking at the location and the land today, this is kind of like an aerial of what it looks like. It's quite beautiful. The hillside here used to be pineapple land, and we are trying to maintain that integrity of the land as much as we can, securing views. for the residents, kind of tiering it so that everybody can kind of get a nice view, Ocean or Mount Mauka or Mackay. Just reminding some of the community benefits, rushing through here. We are working, we have been working very hard, as you can tell, with these approvals and progress. Our development plans have been in the county for a while. We have our grading plans submitted, and we are looking forward to starting this project this year, believe it or not. We have a lot of other great news as well. So we have a managed appreciation home resale model for the for sale homes. This program is to keep affordable homes affordable and in that stock. We have a length of residency application priority program to support local families first. That's really important. The project also will connect to existing Lahaina wastewater treatment plants, and a big deal at Pulilehua is mentioned earlier today. We are reusing all of the R1 water that we generate for our landscaping and fire flow for the community. So we are not adding to the problem, we are helping it. The project has a lot of infrastructure. This is what we will be starting on first. We have a lot going on here. I won't bore you with all the details of what it takes to power a community like this, but I can assure you that we have been working very hard in securing these lines to the plant, the R1 water lines back, powering this community, everything in between, highway and lane improvements, supporting the airport above us, you name it, we're doing it, and we are so excited to get going. So once again, I want to just take a moment to thank West Maui for all the support that we've received from you all. We do hear you, we are working hard, and we are so excited to bring this project to life. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Preston. Preston and his dad, Paul, are here, and I'm sure will be available to, you can talk to them individually if you'd like to. They're not running away here. I hope. No, that's awesome. Well, as I said, we're real excited about them and what they're doing. Next on the line is Pamela Eaton, new Maui Metropolitan Planning Director. Pamela, have you tried your presentation yet? Have you plugged in and see if it's going to? You can ask right there. Go ahead, ask him. You don't need to announce it to everybody. You can ask him. He'll tell you right there.
So is the school coming in at the same time as the houses? No, not yet. The school is a state-funded project, and it's from the general funds of the state of Hawaii. It's nothing to do with Maui County or the county doesn't fund the school. But what we have done is we've given them the land for it whenever they're ready to come. So they'll determine the family count, children, and so on and so forth, and then they'll decide when to fund it.
Yep. So this is why, see, there's a lot of different things that Paul's saying. The state and the county aren't necessarily on the same page. And this Department of Education, anybody who knows anything about that, that's another world all by itself. And it's a real battle. So we could talk for hours about that. So the idea is that no, it's not going to be simultaneously, but that's something that we're definitely interested in. We know we need that. We need improvements there. And if anybody's got a chance to get those things that we needed done, these two gentlemen in their development, they know how to get it done. So I'm looking forward to that. Pamela, you as the long-range planning director, I met her for the county of Maui many years ago, and she's just working hard. And now she's left the county, but she's with a new organization. She can tell you all about that.
Thanks, Joe. Aloha. Man, it's awesome to see you guys. I recognize a lot of faces, and I want to thank you for, you guys were very involved in the West Maui Community Plan update. That was a lot of fun. Learned a lot about West Maui. So yes, as Joe said, I've left the county. I actually I moved here 12 years ago, refugee from New England, Boston area, and the 2009 financial situation. But I was hired by the Department of Water Supply, and I was the division chief there for the Water Resources and Planning. So it makes me very, very happy to hear the mayor taking water supply seriously. I'm very excited about that. That's so critical. After 3 years at the Department of Water Supply, I went to the Department of Planning and was the long-range planning director for about 8 years. And one of the things that I really loved about long-range planning, I have a very varied background. I love learning new things, and I love connecting with community, and I love bringing different parties together. And one of the things that I really got jazzed by and very excited by was back in 2016, 2015, Maui sort of hit the population limit, if you will, and became an MPO, and I'll talk about that in my talk. But I was involved in the MPO in New England with Boston, New York, and Rhode Island, so I had a little bit of experience creating hurricane evacuation plans and so forth. And I know a lot of folks at the time was like, oh God, the feds. But it's not necessarily a bad thing. And so what I want to talk to you about tonight are the benefits of the Maui Planning Organization. But more importantly, Senator McKelvey and I had a little chat, and he was concerned and felt that the MPO could do better in terms of engagement and public involvement. I couldn't agree more. That's like my bread and butter. So I'm here tonight to talk to you and get you involved in the MPO. We are strong supporters, and Lauren Armstrong, God bless her, our first executive director who laid the foundation, so I basically don't have to do anything. The West Maui Greenway Plan was done. It's out there. I hope you visited the booth. Yes, look at Saman. But there's some other critical efforts. They aren't going to be successful unless you guys get involved. So first question, how many folks know what an MPO is and what it does? Awesome, I'm not wasting my time. Great. Okay, perfect. All righty. So what is an MPO? Maui Metropolitan Planning Organization. You get a gold star. Awesome. Basically what an MPO is this picture here from Oakland. We don't want that. So when you start achieving a certain density, land use, roads, infrastructure, and so forth, the purpose of the MPO is really to kind of combine land use and transportation planning to have good planning efforts. Some of the other purposes of the MPO, and the reason why the Maui MPO is important, is the Maui Metropolitan Planning Organization. I'm just going to say MPO. I hate using acronyms, but that's a mouthful. We provide a forum. Okay, so when the federal money comes to Maui, certain formula and so forth, the MPO provides an opportunity for you guys to get involved. For folks to get involved, it's my job to make sure that there's transparency, accessibility, and clarification in terms of how these funds are being spent and how you want them to be spent. Okay, now the MPO, there's 4 critical documents that an MPO has to have, and this applies for every MPO around the country. And that is number 1, which is another reason why I'm here tonight, is the Public Participation Plan. When the MPO was established in 2016, I actually sat on the Technical Advisory Committee and was the first chair for the first 3 years. We whipped this sucker together. I mean, we had these 4 documents we had to pull together. We were trying to get it established so that we could hit a certain cycle so we could receive federal funding. My point is the 2017 Public Participation Plan needs a huge amount of work. But it's a great opportunity. We learned a lot from COVID-19 in terms of how to virtually engage the community. I look at that as a silver lining. Through the West Maui Community Plan, we started the South Maui Community Plan, the Transit-Oriented Development Corridor Plans. All of those projects were kicked off the first year of COVID. And yet the engagement was amazing. So that's not in this plan right now. So it's very, very important. This year is the year it gets updated. I've got to have it done by September. Oh, by the way, Mayor, it's my 21st day on the job. I get you. So I've extended it 4 months in order to allow for more public engagement. I had the survey posted today again on the website and opened. So please go to our website, please take the survey, and it's basically how I can do a better job. I mean, that's really important in terms of the process. The other plans that are important, how many folks here were involved in Hele Mai Maui? I know Donna is, Saman, our pros. So Hele Mai Maui is our long-range transportation plan. That plan is critical because the projects identified in that plan then go into the TIP, another acronym, the Transportation Improvement Program. So that I also have to get an RFP out by the end of the year. If you can believe it or not, here we are 5 years later, again, it needs to be updated. I feel like we just approved that plan. Then finally, the Unified Work Program. That's basically my budget, my salary, and then the planning activities I work on. So that sort of like sets the course for me. One thing that's very exciting, that's unique to Hawaii, Director Ed Sniffen, who's the head of Hawaii Department of Transportation, there is a chunk of unobligated money, 3.2 million. And Maui, by the way, how we get our funding from the Federal Transportation Association and the Federal Highways Association. And it's a formula. It's complicated, but it's based on population, it's based on vehicle miles traveled, and it's based on the miles of roadway. So to put it in perspective, Oahu MPO of this pot of money gets 85%, we get 15%. So that's frustrating. I mean, I can't help it. I'm a planner. You know, this is frustrating. However, there is now 3.2 million available, and Director Sniffen very much wants Maui to have an opportunity to grab this funding. So they're planning studies, and so I hope to meet with the various, well, DPW, perhaps the mayor's staff, and so forth to figure out, I mean, this is unbelievable, this opportunity to have this amount of money for planning funds. So every once in a while, we get good news like this. The purpose of the MPO is really about communication and collaboration. So the MPO, and this actually took me a couple years to figure out, we do not construct projects, we do not implement projects, we're collaborators, we try to get money, money can go through us, we support the Department of Public Works, we support the Maui Department of Transportation, Maui Bus, and we support HDOT. So I can go out and get money and do trainings and do capacity building with staff, you know, all those kinds of things, but these are our partners. So MDOT, HDOT, and DPW are the ones who actually do the construction and implementation of these transportation projects. Right now, we are in the middle of a revision for the Transportation Improvement Program. I don't know how many folks knew this, but until January 22nd, we are in a public comment review period. 3 projects are being amended that are currently on the tip. So it's really important, if these are things you care about, to go to our website, and it's listed there and described there. Any public comment, it is my responsibility to make sure that all public comment is publicly available and disposed of, meaning I need to address your comment, make sure it gets to the right source, and provide an answer. So it's very transparent, so everybody knows what everybody's saying, including the people responsible for implementing the project. So that ends on January 22nd. So we have the structure of the Maui MPO. We have a policy board, and essentially they're the gatekeepers for federal funding, and they approve some of those 4 core programs. Basically, the policy board right now, Councilmember Paulton is on it. Councilmember Sinensi is on it. We have Yukile Sugimura is on it. The director of the Department of Transportation, State, now Director Sniffen, is on it. We also have Senator Angus McKelvey is on it. Representative Troy Hashimoto is on it. And then we have 3 department directors. And that's the great thing about the MPO. There's a lot of crossover. So the director of the planning department, Kathleen Aoki, is on it, acting director. The acting director for the Department of Transportation, Mark Takamori, is on it. He was on it last year as well, last term. And the director of Department of Public Works, Jordan Molina, is on it. So that's the policy board. And they're the ones who ultimately approve the TIP. They're the ones who ultimately, after public comment, approve the long-range transportation plan and the public participation program. So there's also a technical advisory committee. And the technical advisory committee really, it consists of representatives from Maui Bus, Transportation, Public Works, 3 people, Planning Department, Parks and Recreation, Housing and Human Concerns, and then the Hawaii Department of Transportation. These folks, like I said, I've served on it since it started. They're the subject matter experts. So we get called, we have to meet every month, and we're the ones who basically look into the TIP, the STIP, any sort of technical thing that's happening, West Maui Greenway, all of these things kind of run by us in terms of how can we improve it, how can we pull our departmental resources together, leverage the knowledge and those types of things. So that's the TAC. So the MPO consists of the policy board and the TAC. We have 2 MPOs in Hawaii. This is my managing your expectations slide. We have the Oahu MPO, you can count the boxes. Then we have Maui. Oahu MPO, Maui. So just want to make that clear. I have to actually, huge mahalo to Oahu. They've been wonderful. They've really helped a lot in terms of guiding me and so forth. So they have been great. But because of their population and funding and resources, obviously they have a much larger staff. So tonight it's all about filling out the survey, getting involved, learning what we do, helping us help you in terms of how we can improve public involvement and engagement. So who here drives a car? Cool. Who here rides a bike? Even better. Who rides the bus? Oh. Who runs? God, you would, Tova. I'm kidding, you're amazing. All right, bottom line is you're all stakeholders. You are all stakeholders. You're system users, service providers, or government agencies, but everybody in this room should care and be involved at some aspect of what we can do and how we can help. So the public participation plan, probably the next step is please take the survey, but also then probably April, May, around there, we'll have a draft available. I'll probably work with Joe, maybe we can get something out to your newsletter to have you guys review the draft and that type of thing. But that's really the important thing right now that's happening is the public participation plan. Like I mentioned, we can vastly improve from 2017 in terms of how we can reach you, how we communicate, where we communicate, and what we communicate. So it's really about doing a better job. Okay, tonight, who here has heard of the West Maui Transit Oriented Development Corridor? TOD, awesome. So, first got involved with this about 5 years ago, looking at Central Maui in terms of how can we address affordable housing, how can we improve the roads, how can we move the jobs next to roads and so forth, and how can we get people to basically run, walk in a more safe fashion. I was involved as the mayor's delegate designee for Arakawa and Victorino to serve on the state interagency TOD council. It was created to basically improve transportation and land use planning and also provide affordable housing in areas that are next to public transit as well as jobs, economy centers, and so forth. We put together a hearing at the Ledge, and we're very, very lucky to have Senator Agaron and Representative Hashimoto sponsor us, and we received a $500,000 grant. Councilmember Sugi Mora pledged another $100,000 from the county council, and so our first plan was $600,000 to do a study corridor. We have since received from Office of Statewide Planning last year $500,000 to study the corridor. So I guess I have a minute left. I'll whip through this. So essentially, what is the project? It's basically taking a look at how can we, using the West Maui Greenway, using the West Maui Community Plan, and all these areas, how can we create new transit hubs, safer biking, walking, bike paths, and then when affordable housing is put up, ensuring that there is free public transit, bikeways, walkways, and so forth. So it's making those connections, creating those compact communities. The study area basically starts at Prison Street, down near the Lahaina Aquatic Center, runs up through Ka'anapali, really focusing on connecting Ka'anapali with Lahaina in a safe way. Stakeholders, so we were in July, the consultants came, that's at Kolu Lindsay, we're at his office meeting. So we looked at multimodal access. We heard people are seeing Honopialani as a barrier. That's no surprise. Crossing, of course. Wanting more workforce and affordable housing, but also addressing the traffic associated with that. I'm sure we all know about Keawe Street. Looking at how we can support more economic diversification. Yesterday I was at the Climate Resiliency Conference, and we talked about this in terms of improving land use and transportation in terms of climate resilience and sea level rise. I'm sure you guys know much of this, but the bottom line is we're looking at where people live, how much people make, what the housing need is, and trying to make those connections with, I don't know if you know this, but typically transportation costs should cost about 15% of your monthly income. Right now in Maui, they're anywhere from 30 to 50%. So one of the things that we're trying to do is to provide transit or bring jobs closer. I'm sure you know, just to let you know, this diagram here kind of says it all. A lot of folks live in Central Maui but commute out to West Maui, Central Maui commute to South Maui. Honopialani gets a lot of traffic. And we know the story of Honopialani. You guys are the experts in terms of its vulnerabilities. Right now, driving 24,000 vehicles per day on Honopialani Highway. West Maui Islander actually has the highest ridership route. I don't know how many folks knew that in terms of visitors as well as commuters and people working in the resorts. Sadly, between 2010 and 2017, there were 850 crashes, 28 walking and biking. So we know how critical the West Maui Greenway is in creating multi-use paths and so forth, safe areas. So I'm almost done. How can you get involved? Week of February 27th to March 3rd, we are gonna have some really great events, walk audits, open houses, those types of things. West Maui Community Corridor, that's our website. It's very kind of interactive, getting folks involved. There'll be a community profile to come out. Would love to have people see it. Like I said, we're doing this in collaboration and consistent with the West Maui Greenway as well as the West Maui Community Plan. Next thing, and I'm almost done, visioning workshops. We really need you guys to get involved. It could be in person here. It's also going to be online. So it's what is this vision? One thing I want to say about the TOD corridor, what it is not. It is not about putting in a ton of housing along Honopialani Highway and increasing the density to a point where we're at a stalemate. That's not what it is about. I know several people have voiced concerns about that. It's much more balanced approach in terms of making this livable community. But these visioning workshops are going to be really important so we can hear from you in terms of what you do and do not want to see. So that's it. That's all I have. And thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Pamela. For anybody's got specific questions, again, please write them down on a piece of paper. We'll make sure they get answered today. And our next presentation is by Joanne Johnson Weiner. And Joanne is a wonderful, wonderful person. I've had the pleasure of working with her many years. She's a former council member from West Maui. One of the best ones we've ever had, I'd have to say, and so nice to see her. She's also now currently the executive director. Oh, I'm sorry. You tell us what you're...
I am the Secretary and Vice President for the West Maui Hospital Foundation.
There you go. That's all. This is updated. So I'm anxious to hear just as much as all of you are from Joanne about what's happening with the West Maui Hospital, because we are both involved in that for many, many years. So give me a big hand, please, for Joanne Johnson Weiner.
Thank you. Aloha. It's wonderful to see many of you. I know I haven't seen many of you for years, but I'm here. And I am carrying on with the commitment that I made many, many years ago, which is to see that West Maui gets a West Maui hospital. So I know you support it, I support it. My husband, Jim, when he was alive, he supported it. Larry supported it when he was alive. And he told me one important thing: never give up. And I have not. So I will not give up. We're going to get this done. Brian Hoyle sends his regrets. He could not be on island. So he asked me to give you an update to let you know that the project is closer than it has ever been before. There's a few things he wanted me to touch base on, which I'll go through, and then I'll update you on what's going on over at the state and some of the things at the county as well. He wanted me to report that the 14.99 acre fully entitled and hospital certificate of need was approved for the site on Kaka'alaneo in the Kaanapali Resort community. It's fully graded now with all of the in-ground drainage lines completed. And I know some of you were upset with the roadway project going on the highway, but that is that portion of it's now through. And that had to do with the off-site sewer line, which we completed, and it was supposed to be done a while ago, but it didn't happen. We have the plans and the permits. We've scaled down because of huge cost increases and because of a lot of different factors with staffing, with the situation that we all experience nationwide, which is a shortage of physicians, materials, supply chain issues. So we have scaled down to start with a 5-bed critical access hospital on the just over 5 acres. And we will have a 24-hour emergency room. We'll have 3 operating rooms, radiology, lab, pharmacy, and outpatient services. And that is to be completed in this year. The construction, which is the critical access hospital itself, is going to start, and I think he gave me the wrong date, because I think these are the plans that he's talking about, not the actual opening of the facility, so I want to make that distinction. The construction of the critical access hospital will, according to all the plans that we have in place right now, it will begin in 2024 with completion in 2025. Then the West Maui Hospital building, and this is the part where I come in. I'm with the West Maui Hospital Foundation, and we are going to have all of this turned over so that we will be operating the nonprofit West Maui Hospital, and we will secure the long-term ground lease from Newport Hospital Corporation. And to date, there has been an investment by Newport Hospital Corporation of roughly $30 million, which is unbelievable. You know, I mean, I told Brian, I said, I don't know how you've hung in there that long. If it was my money, I don't know that I would be willing to do that, but he has. And so we owe him and Newport Hospital Corporation a great debt of gratitude as well. There will be other facilities, medical office and clinic buildings, an assisted living facility. They'll also be part of this, but they will not be the first things to come online. The first thing is the most important thing to all of us, and that is a hospital. We cannot continue to just depend on getting to the other side via ambulance. It's just not workable, and I've seen it. I know many of you have loved ones. Some of them did not make it even to the other side because it is so critical. But the good news is that Tamara Paulton, along with Tasha Kama and the rest of our county council, they were very gracious and very patient with me because I kept insisting, I want a resolution to state that this is where the county stands as far as this project is concerned. Now, the resolution that I asked for was in support of the grant in aid, which I went over yesterday. I wrote the grant. It's for $7 million for the West Maui Hospital, because one of the things which Tamara's aware of and others are aware of is that one of the critical things that we must have is the buy-in from local government and the support of local government. That's both state, county. We know the community supports it because you have done that right along. So this is what we must do. We have to have that buy-in, and that's why we are asking for this money, because in past bond floats, in trying to secure private financing previously, we ran into a roadblock because they said, well, where's the money from the county? Where's the money from the state? We don't have that. So they were very reluctant to, at that time, it was, $40, $50 million or more that we were looking at. And they said, no, we're not in a position where we feel comfortable doing that. But now we're at a point where, with the help of the state and the support of the county council for our $7 million grant in aid, it is a start. It's not certainly going to pay for the construction of the hospital, but it will complete the remaining on-site infrastructure, which is some of the roadways and some of the other critical work to connect the water lines, to connect to the county systems. So we will be hopefully getting, if not the full 7 million, because it's a big ask for the grant and aid. I know that because I've seen some of the other awards that have been made in the past, and they're much smaller. But I want to let you know that Angus McKelvey and Ellie Cochran, your representatives for the House and the Senate at the state level, are working very, very hard to see that this comes to fruition. They have also put forward ideas that will be a Plan B, which is special purpose revenue bond for perhaps as much as $10 million, which I'm hoping, if we don't get all of the money secured with the grant and aid request, then at least we'll be able to get the remaining money from these other resources. I put the grant together. I'm hoping and praying. I just cannot help but think that for some reason, this is the year where things actually are going to happen, because the right people are in the right places and the support of the community has never been stronger. So I want to thank you for hanging in there too all these years. Yesterday when I was over on Oahu, and I guess I have distrust of the U.S. Postal Service, what can I say? I did not want my hard work and our hard work for the community to just, go through the postal system. So I hand-delivered both of the copies to the House and the Senate. And I made sure, I said, you've got this now, you know my name, you know who it is. Oh, yes, yes, so they were very gracious and very patient. But I did have an opportunity to also meet with some of the other staff. And and I know that Tamara knows this, sometimes people always think, oh, it's the guy at the top, it's us, the council members or the state representatives. But if you don't have good staff, you don't get your work done, because they're the guys that help you keep abreast of everything. So I met with the staff of many of the key members who will be in critical positions to actually help make this a reality. So what I would ask is that when the public portion of the grant and aid process comes forward, that will be where you as the public are going to be asked to write letters of support, to give testimony, whether it's in person, whether it's Zoom, or whether it's just written. You will be asked to support all of the different grants in aid that are applied for. And I ask you, please, if you do no other testimony, please support the hospital, because it is really, really important. I also want to acknowledge Bob Schroeder in the back there, who is doing a great job here in West Maui with helping to facilitate this process. And he and many of the members from the community have given public testimony, even at the council level, to support this project. The copies also, I gave a letter of introduction. I gave a copy of the resolution that was passed by our county council in support of the West Maui Hospital and the funding for it. I also included testimony from Lahaina Luna High School Career Path. It's actually a program that Malia Shimamura developed for healthcare career path. And she desperately needs a venue for her students so that she has some place that they can actually do their practical studies and do some volunteer work, because we are going to need future nurses, future staff, future doctors, so that we don't have to always depend on recruiting from the mainland. So Malia has done an awesome job, and she wrote the most touching letter of support that I have ever seen. And it comes right from her heart, because she really believes not only that her students deserve this, but they've worked very hard for it. So I delivered that. A few other things in there. I'm hoping that the governor has an opportunity to read it, but because he is a physician, I also think that he is going to be very supportive of our request, because he knows that we cannot have a community that is working and that is able to function unless you have critical infrastructure. And the hospital is so much more than just a place to go when you get sick. You know, it's a center. I want to include, and we will be including, a component for the cultural aspect of healing, to do la'au lapa'au, perhaps healing herbs and other forms of Hawaiian healing, because it's very important to not forget where we are and where we live, and that this is something that's also very viable in helping our community members to heal. The one thing, which is on a totally unrelated subject but related to what Pamela Eaton was saying, one of the things that I worked on when I was Director of Transportation for Maui County was the very thing that she presented, which is the Metropolitan Planning Organization. I drafted the initial rules, and it was eventually adopted by the subsequent council after I had left that position. But it is so critical to know that the infrastructure that we have, the ability to move, the ability for our community to function is critical to everything. And so what Ellie and Angus wanted all of you to know is we desperately need to get the northern link, which goes to the north of the bypass. We need to get that put back on the State Transportation Improvement Program. It's not going to happen unless you guys lobby for it. And I'm going to be lobbying for it. But that is critical to allow our community to function. And Angus and Ellie both feel that it is something that is absolutely necessary for us to move forward as a community. So I'm asking at their request, and they apologize, but they're over there working very hard, on your behalf for the upcoming legislature. They wanted you and me to be there just as much for them as they are there for us. So I just thank you very much. I really appreciate every single thing you've done in the past, and I'm going to continue on. And even after the hospital gets up and running, I want to make sure that it's here a little bit longer than our poor Pioneer Mill Hospital lasted, because I know we used to have a hospital in West Maui, but we need it to return, and we need it to be a part of the community for all times to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Joanne. Well, that was one of our projects also a long time ago. They said it was impossible to get a certificate of need. Mayo Clinic tried to get a certificate of need and was denied. And they said, Joe, what makes you think you can get one? I says, I got a West Maui community who's done things that everybody said was impossible, and we got it done. So, we've got some divine assistance here. The community power is awesome, and you are all awesome for being here. Valuable time that you got coming here. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Did you get some information today? Did you get something, some benefits? Well, interact with us. Let us help you help us all together. Let's keep this incredible thing. You're part of a miracle in progress with Olawalu. Doing something again is impossible. We got the certificate of need for the hospital. That was impossible. We've done so many impossible things with God's help. So let's continue it. Any more questions that you have, write them down. I'll make sure that the people who are still here, if you can talk to them in person with your question, or if you're not satisfied or didn't get your answer, let us know what it is and we'll follow up for you. Thank you very much for coming. Give yourselves a big hand, and all our presenters. Thank you so much.